For a recent essay, Dan Barry explores a difficult question: what are Americans to make of the routine we've developed when it comes to reacting to mass shootings? It's a question journalists ask themselves, too, and one that informs the Times's coverage of these events on the deepest level. When shootings happen as often as they do, there is a certain similarity to the journalistic script, said the national editor, Mark Lacey. Reporters know where to go and what to ask, and some themes recur from shooting to shooting. But the logistical playbook isn't an emotional one, he emphasized. Our job is to never allow this to become routine, and to, once we do confirm it, react and cover it aggressively, as though it's the very first one we've covered. The National Desk receives reports of active gunman situations in the United States at least once a day, Mr. Lacey said, which percolate among many dozens of stories the Times considers in pursuit of the news that will drive the day. Early Wednesday afternoon, as reports of a potential active gunman at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, FLA, began to surface on social media, reporters and editors monitored the situation and began to try to confirm details. The Times's Miami bureau chief, Patricia Mazzi, began making calls, while a correspondent, Audra D. S. Birch, and a stringer, Nick Madigan, were dispatched to the school. By 3:30 p.m., when the front page meeting is held, editors had the sense it was likely to lead Thursday's paper. Then came the work of putting together three initial stories: the straightforward news piece, a profile of the suspect, and an article on the scene in Parkland. The National Desk didn't hand off the story to other editors until well past midnight, Mr. Lacey said. We were here again maybe 5-6 hours later, starting up again. By early Thursday afternoon, less than 24 hours after the shooting, he estimated at least 25 reporters and 15 editors were working on the story. Elsewhere in the newsroom on Wednesday, the video and graphics teams began spinning up. Steve Dunes, an assistant managing editor and head of the graphics desk, said that in breaking news events, the team starts by focusing on the scene. Within about an hour of learning the news, the team generated a locator map, which they then detailed with new information as reporters acquired it. The aim, Mr. Dunes explained, was to offer as much context as possible. Because of a grim coincidence, they had something of a head start this time around. The graphics department was already working on a piece about the more than 200 school shootings since the Sandy Hook massacre in 2012. They rushed to publish that story, he said, to help readers understand the consistency of the events, the scale. Video team producers watched while the full sweep of the attack came into view. But, helped by the ubiquity of recording technology and smartphones, they could begin pulling in visuals right away. We were looking at how people were evacuated, and it seemed like half of the students were filming it, said Mark Schooleffler, the department's news director. The first Times video went up in under 2 hours, one of their faster turnarounds. One of the lessons we've learned is that people just want to know what happened, Mr. Schooleffler said. We try to just capture the visceral moment on a first pass. The Express Desk, a general assignment team that helps other desks with breaking news reporting and editing, monitored television broadcasts and social media feeds for more developments. Twitter, especially, can be a fruitful source of details but also a dangerous one, susceptible to being clouded by misinformation, both unintentional and not. I start with the basic assumption that everything I'm seeing is wrong, old, or fake and thus unusable, said Daniel Victor, an Express reporter. Then I work toward proving that it's genuine, only then considering it for publication. The immediate journalistic demands of covering a mass shooting are obvious: gather as much information as possible, confirm it, convey it. What happens several days later, and in the following weeks, is less so. Balancing on-the-spot reporting with deeper, more time-consuming analysis is a key concern. We're going to have a presence in this town for some time, Mr. Lacey said of Parkland. We're not going to just disappear tomorrow. The New York Times tends to want to be one of the first people there and one of the last to go. Given the similarities from shooting to shooting, it sometimes makes sense for the digital team to resurface material on social media, the homepage or both the Times ran on previous occasions. On Thursday, a 2016 story by C.J. Chivers about the military-style weapons often used in mass shootings, including Wednesday's, was of interest once again to readers. So were two opinion pieces published after the Las Vegas shooting last year, one by Nicholas D. Kristof, suggesting several policy measures to curb gun violence, the other listing the top congressional recipients of donations by the National Rifle Association. The repetition wears on journalists just as it wears on everyone. Nobody enjoys covering mass shootings. Nobody does, Mr. Lacey said. Every American feels helpless about these awful incidents. But, he added, he hopes the journalists he leads feel proud of their role in informing the public. That's your role in perhaps changing society, he said, by letting people know what actually occurred.